feeling our 4 points of our feet into the floor. Our knees are straight but not locked. Got our pelvis in neutral. And then moving up the spine, feeling all the natural S curves of the spine. Arms are dangling at our sides. And then the skull is sitting right on top of the spine. And if it feels okay for you, we'll do our breathing both in and out of the nose. And as we inhale, let's think of sending the breath to the back ribs or into the heart. And as you exhale, just allow the shoulders to soften. Inhaling into the back body. And exhaling, release. Let's do 2 more breaths here. As that inhale goes into the back body, you might feel the back ribs expanding. And exhale, release. We're going to come down onto our backs. Have your block and your bolster or substitutes nearby, but we'll start first just with nothing on our backs. If you want something under your head, feel free to place something there. And then just taking a minute to notice our body resting on the mat, just that change in gravity from standing to laying down. Back of the head is heavy on the back of the mat, and we'll nod the chin down towards the throat, and then lift the chin towards the sky. Jaw and tongue soft as we nod forward, and lifting up. Breathing as we find an easy movement here, so not forcing anything. Just noticing what's available and how it feels. And then we'll pause and we'll start drawing circles about the size of a loonie or toonie with the tip of the nose. Breathing as you circle around, noticing that shoulders are soft, forehead is soft. We'll pause, we'll reverse directions. Just warming up the top 2 vertebrae of the spine. And then we'll come through center. We're going to grab our bolster or our pillow to place underneath our back. And so we have it parallel to our body, or in line, I guess, with our spine. And our head and shoulders will be resting on the prop. So if you have a folded blanket or a pillow, you'll place it sort of just right down to where the shoulder blades are. And then extending the legs either with a prop under the knees or without, if that feels okay. And you can let the legs be relaxed. And we'll open the arms to a T position. And we'll take another couple breaths here. Inhaling, filling belly, ribs, and chest. And exhaling, let gravity take your ribs down towards the mat. So we're not using force, but just encouraging a softness there. Exhale, releasing the body, letting gravity take its weight down. And one more breath here. And releasing. We're going to rotate our arm bones in our shoulder sockets so that our thumbs are touching the floor rather, and the palms of the hands are facing up towards the head. And from here, we're going to trace the thumbs along the floor, floating the arms up towards the head. We're going to go as far as you can go while keeping contact with the thumbs and elbows lifted. And when you reach the place where you can go no further, you're going to start to open back down, keeping thumbs connected, palms facing the your head. And we'll lower the arms all the way down towards the thighs. I know I repeat this every time we do this, but the range of motion that you find is not the most important thing. So stick with the range that feels available to you today without forcing anything. You might find as we do some repetitions that range starts to increase. If you don't notice that, that's okay too. You're just going to work sort of at the edge of your abilities. So there might be a little bit of discomfort in terms of like muscle discomfort from movement, but not forcing it into a place of pain. And maybe just taking a moment to check in as you're doing this to see if there's been any changes from last week to this week. For some of us, we might see a little bit of progress from last week to this week. Some of us might notice that this week maybe there's a little bit less range, maybe it feels a little bit harder this week, and that's okay too, because every day our body is slightly different, depends on what we've done already today, what we did yesterday, how we slept, all those things impact the body. And so we're just practicing noticing what's happening today and then responding to that. We'll inhale as the arms float up towards the head. And then exhale as we open down. I was sharing with the class last night that when I first started doing these, I used to get this weird clicking in one of my shoulders that I've had an injury in before, and it was a little bit painful, but I wasn't sure if it was like good pain or bad pain. And the more every week that we do this, it decreases and I'm finding a little more smoother movement. And so that's what I've been kind of noticing this week, is how much that has shifted. And there still is a little bit of places where it doesn't feel like the most comfortable thing in the world, but it's kind of at that edge of tolerating discomfort. Let's do one more, floating up. Really getting into our shoulder joint here. You might also start to feel a little bit in the spine. And the next time you come through your T shape, we'll pause, we'll rest the backs of the palms on the floor and just pause here for some breathing, allowing the ribs to soften down towards the floor. Letting the fingers relax. And the shoulders soften. And then we're going to pick up our block. Of course, I told you guys to have it nearby, but mine's out of reach. We're going to pick up our block or whatever prop you're using in place of your block. And we'll hold it in our hands. Hands are just gently pressing towards one another, like we're trying to squish the prop. And then the elbows will draw gently towards one another. So we're creating an external rotation through the shoulder joint by doing this. As we move, our elbows are going to want to widen, and we're just going to keep reminding them to be drawing towards one another. And we'll start to bring this prop overhead. And you're going to go as far as the shoulders allow. And when you reach your final destination, you'll start to float back up. Same as in the previous exercise, we're not forcing anything, so just work with what's available. You may find as you move through the reps that the range starts to increase a bit. Elbows together, gently squeezing your prop. And floating up. Same as I said earlier, take note if there's any changes between last week and this week, whatever those changes are. Keep breathing as you go. Elbows gently drawing towards one another. We're going to do one more just like this. And then I'm going to give you an option. If this feels like a pretty good challenge, I want you to stay right here. If you're curious and you want to try hopping off of your bolster, you can come off of the bolster and place something under your head, like a towel or something under your head to help keep ribs heavy, and then we'll continue this movement. What this is going to do is going to bring our awareness in a different way, using the mat as feedback to our ribs. So ribs are heavy to the mat. And even if you want to use your blanket a little bit under your shoulders, if you need to prop up a little more to get ribs down, you're welcome to do that. And we're holding the prop in the same way, and we're going to try again. This time, not just the shoulders are going to dictate how far back we go, but also the ribs. If you feel them starting to lift away from the mat, that's your stopping point, and then you'll start to float back up. And just a reminder, the reason we're using that as a guideline is because we're really trying to target shoulders, and if the ribs start to lift away, then this spine is helping us move the prop, which is a fine and normal movement. When our arms come overhead, the spine often helps, but we just really want to get in right into the shoulder to challenge that range of motion. We're going to do two more here. Notice the differences between being on the bolster and being off the bolster. And know that that's a choice you can always make for this exercise, whether you want to be on bolster or off bolster. I sometimes find doing a few on the bolster as a warm-up helps me if I want to try them off the bolster. And after this one, we'll put the block to the side and we'll float the arms into the air and just give them a shake, because that was hard work. We're going to move our prop from under our head out of the way, and we will bend our legs, heels aligned with sits bones. And my favorite exercise to do after that series is our bridging. So let's do that. We're going to round the low back into the mat, press equally into the 2 feet. And as we peel up, we'll float the arms up and overhead. And then softening throat, softening breastbone, softening ribs, rolling back down, angel arms back down. I've got my thumbs on the floor, palms facing up towards my head, just to keep that same continuity from the last exercise, peeling up to really integrate this movement into the body. And opening down. Notice how the shoulders feel, and notice how the spine feels. Peeling up. Circling around. You might even want to play with the spine and just see as you peel up. Can you peel up one vertebra at a time? Notice what parts of the spine want to come up as a chunk or like a block segment of the spine. And then same on the way down. See if you can place down one vertebra at a time. I always find after laying on the bolster and working my arms that it's a little bit easier to find that segmented movement. Let's do one more, peeling up. Pausing at the top, arms overhead, hips are high, ribs are low. And if you want keeping arms overhead, we'll start to lay the spine down, seeing if we can get one vertebra at a time. If you start this and feel that you need to move your arms, then you're just going to angel the arms back down to your side. Once pelvis is down, we'll pause here. Inhale into the ribs. Exhale, softening shoulders, softening ribs. And then let's bend our elbows. So we're coming into a cactus or a goalpost position. Maybe you're going to float the arms a little bit off the mat to find this and keep ribs heavy. Or maybe you'll find that being on the bolster is allowing you to do this without floating the arms. Elbows are going to stay connected to the ground. We're going to float the arms up. So now fingertips, float the forearms up. So fingertips are pointing to the sky, elbows still down. And then we'll continue to bring the palms down towards the floor. So now we're coming into an internal rotation in the shoulder. Invite the ribs to soften. And then we're going to straighten the elbows to bring the arms down by our sides.